Please stand for the invocation. Lord of creation, we have so much to be thankful for on this day of commencement. We are grateful for family and friends who supported these students through their years of study and personal growth. We're also grateful for the successes and triumphs that each one here has achieved to make it to this day. We're even thankful for the hardships and challenges that have made these students who they are, perhaps even more so than their successes. We ask that you bless our time together. May it be a joyous, beautiful, and memorable occasion for all. Amen. You may be seated.
To our faculty, staff, and administrators, esteemed alumni, members of the Board of Trustees and Board of Governors, to Mr. Shaw and Ms. Seibert, to our dear families and friends, and especially to my fellow senior girls, good afternoon. My name is Gabrielle Hitzman, and I am the Senior Girls Class President. And on this beautiful day, in the beautiful Christ Church Cranbrook, it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to welcome you to the commencement ceremony of the class of 2016. We gather here today to celebrate the culmination of our journey in this remarkable educational community and to mark the beginning of a new and exciting chapter in our lives. And at the close of our high school experience, although we stand here today at the brink of adulthood with a promising territory before us that is vast and unknown, we find ourselves immersed in a state of transition that is very much familiar. 14 years ago, on my first day of school at Cranbrook, I stood, considerably smaller than I am today, with my straight-cut bangs, 5 years old. And with my parents, I walked into the ECC, holding my mom's hand. And at the outside of Mrs. Sutton's classroom, we paused for a minute. As we stood facing the room full of playing children, many of whom are sitting here today, I looked up and I said, "I can do this, Mommy." And in that moment, I let go of her hand and I walked into the first day of my journey at Cranbrook. This small and somewhat simple moment that we all had to face as children entering kindergarten, as young, awkward teens entering middle school, and as timid freshmen entering the world of high school has a profound significance to what we are doing here today and what we will do 4 years from now when we graduate from college. It shows us that our path to the future is very circular in nature. We, as young adults, find ourselves facing the same threshold today that we faced years ago as we prepared to enter our first classrooms, preparing to let go of the hand that guided us to become the children we were then and the young women we are today. Facing the unfamiliar, we take pause, in which we comprehend and accept the change before us. We then turn back to reflect upon our past, where we come from, the experiences that have helped us to grow, and the people who have sacrificed their love and their energy to bring us to this point. And then, with all that we have learned, with our independence and with our ambition, we make the commitment to take that leap, to let go of the hand that has guided us for so long, in whatever form it may come, be it our parents, our teachers, our friendships, or even Cranbrook itself, and move on to the future. We stand here today far more mature, confident, and sure of ourselves than we did as freshmen. It took us 4 long years of learning, of friendships, and of self-discovery to get to this point, at which high school, something that once seemed so daunting and mysterious, is now second nature, a concept that seems as straightforward and as familiar as kindergarten. And it seems as though that as soon as we master the challenge and we reach this epiphany, we find that we have outgrown the labyrinth and that we must embark on the solving of a new puzzle. It is the solving itself, however, that moves us forward. The choices we make, the mistakes from which we learn and recover, the legacies we build, those ways in which we spend our time are what make us grow and what have brought us to this point today at which we sit with caps and gowns ready for the future. This group of young women that sits before you today has such incredible power at their fingertips. They are exceptionally intelligent, they are talented in so many ways, and most importantly, they have such a strong sense of motivation to succeed. All of us in this church today, students, families, faculty, were drawn over these rolling green hills and through this breathtaking architecture for the same commitment to excellence. The commitment to excellence that drove George Booth to turn this 320-acre stretch of land into a school. And those standards and expectations to which we hold ourselves are what give us the confidence to approach the future and to take risks like the ones we will face beyond this church. This is what defines us as the class of 2016, and furthermore, what defines us as the Cranbrook educational community. Many people wonder, what makes Cranbrook so special? What is it that brings people from all around the world to this place? What is it that feeds the sense of community here? Well, like many other great schools, with all that we learn here and with the foundation from which we spring, we are bound for success. However, we, like many of our families and faculty here, are compelled to use our successes to give rather than to take, much akin to our class motto, enter to learn, go forth to serve. Instilled within us is the drive to improve the world around us and the lives of the people with whom we interact. And through that, we achieve true fulfillment. This is a passion for success great enough and powerful enough to create a place as incredible as Cranbrook. And although we will let go of our guiding hand and process out of this church today, taking our first steps over a new threshold toward different paths in life, we will always be bound by this standard of excellence that drives us onward. With the deepest and sincerest gratitude to Cranbrook and to those who have sacrificed for us, I would like to congratulate the class of 2016 and wish them the greatest successes ahead. Thank you.
President DeMarco, Mrs. Seibert, Mr. Shaw, faculty, parents, and especially the class of 2016. In the past few weeks, you've sat in these rows several times. At ring ceremony, you gave your friends in the junior class their rings, symbolizing the transfer of leadership as you began the process of leave-taking. 3 weeks ago at Baccalaureate, when the combined class was celebrated, you listened to Reverend Danaher reflect on the relationship between personal passions, vocation, and the needs of the world surrounding you. And you sit here once again today because this is your commencement. It is the end of your time at Cranbrook Kingswood and a beginning of the next phase of your life. Whether you spend 14 years here or 2, this place has shaped you in fundamental ways. And because this day also marks both an end and a beginning for me as well, I've thought long and hard about the central community values which have shaped us all. I came to Cranbrook at 22, and in the most important sense, this is also where I grew up. In the past weeks, as I've begun to pack what seem limitless boxes, especially books, I seem to have kept every biography of Elizabeth Tudor that has been written since I gave a report on her in the 4th grade. But my mind has often shifted to the intangible, the memories of times and events which defined us, those metaphorical boxes which we will take with us and which we will keep forever. The first box I've labeled the Booth Legacy. As a new teacher, my introduction to the community was a meeting with Henry Booth in the Cranbrook House Library reading room. He spoke about his parents' vision, the importance of education valued by both, and the role of Cranbrook as an element of that vision. You have, in this family's legacy, something extraordinary. Their wealth and influence were directed to the establishment of a community that celebrates the process of human creation. And we have lived surrounded by works made by people of genius. But when I use the term genius, I don't want to minimize the effort and personal cost behind that creative process. Understanding this, the importance of struggle, and the determination and dedication required to create, George Booth was not only a financial patron of the arts, he was also a friend and mentor to many people of talent. One of those artists was Catherine McEwen, a painter of landscapes and frescoes, whom Booth knew through their joint association with the Detroit arts and crafts movement. She painted the frescoes behind me, as well as the frescoes in the lower dining hall at Cranbrook. As an archive assignment I once gave a class many years ago, a student found the letters George Booth wrote to Kit, as she was called, as she worked through her vision for these frescoes. He provided advice, encouragement, and confidence in her abilities, things equal to, if not more important than his financial patronage. The Booths recognized that creativity in all of its forms is an individual process which requires passion, hard work, and commitment. When one is very lucky, that passion may translate to vocation, the idea developed by Reverend Danaher in his baccalaureate speech. On Baccalaureate Day, as I listened to him speak, my mind went back to a passage from one of my favorite books, Markings, written by Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations. This is a passage he wrote in his diary. I don't know who or what put the question. I don't know when it was put. I don't even remember answering. But at some moment, I did answer yes to someone or something. And from that hour, I was certain that existence is meaningful and that therefore my life in self-surrender had a goal. I believe that the key values essential to developing a spirit of creativity are the beliefs in diversity and a comfort with change. These three values fill trunks, not boxes in my metaphorical packing, because they also represent our implicit belief in the importance of the individual and therefore our fundamental commitment to humanity. They are inseparable, representing the community's ability to grow and to expand its vision. Cranbrook's embracing of racial diversity began before I arrived, and our Horizons Upward Bound program, more than 50 years old, is remarkable when you realize the role of race in America in the early 1960s. Culturally, the Kingswood I entered in 1969 is very different from the CK of today. I want to tell you a true story about one of my advisees. She arrived from Seoul, Korea as a new 9th grade boarder. And as she and her mother entered her dorm room, she met for the first time her assigned roommate, an African-American girl from Detroit. After unpacking, she and her mother went outside for a walk, and they sat on the dorm patio wall. Neither spoke. They simply looked at each other and sighed. They were both fearful of this new, strange environment and of the unknown. Her roommate was also unhappy with the relationship initially, and their connection was rocky at best. My advisee did not like the smell of her roommate's hair products, and her roommate hated kimchi. What saved the relationship was music. Both girls loved to sing, and both were admitted to madrigals. Love of music and that passion helped both girls to see beyond their differences, and they remained roommates all 4 years. This story is a powerful reminder of what your education has been about. We have presented you deliberately with tough questions, and we have challenged your answers. We've also asked you to challenge yourselves and to create your own questions, to think independently, to have opinions which often are in conflict with others. We've asked you to listen to the opposition and to respect, even when you could not accept alternate beliefs, while you work to find ways to connect and to create bridges to the other position. I spoke with an alum earlier this year who described one of her favorite classes and a teacher very important to her. She described him this way: "He demanded of me more than I thought I was capable, and then he believed in me and gave me the courage to try." Perhaps as faculty, this has been our most important aspect of our teaching process. We have demanded that you do difficult things which pushed you beyond what you believed were your limits. It has been our gift to you to believe in you until you believed in yourselves. Now we must let you go. It's time for you to take the gifts of Cranbrook Kingswood, find your vocation, change the world. This is my challenge to you, to use this legacy, because the world needs you. May you take your comfort and acceptance of differences and care for others as much as you care for yourselves. I'm going off text for a minute because I want to say something personal to each and every one of you. I hadn't written it in because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to carry it off. In so many ways, you have made me the person I am. I have watched your courage, your compassion, your strength as you tripped and fell and stood up and tried again. And these attributes which you showed me required that I try to do my best and not be comfortable with excuses or explanations for why I wasn't as good as I could be. Everyone tells you that you are the heart of the school. They tell you that because it's true. You create what Cranbrook Kingswood stands for. And I'm extraordinarily proud of all of you. My final wish for you is something that Robert Ward once said. I wish you the courage to be warm when the world would prefer that you be cool. I wish you success sufficient to your needs. I wish you failure to temper that success. I wish you joy in all your days, but I wish you sadness so that you may better measure joy. I wish you gladness to overbalance grief, and I wish you humor and a twinkle in the eye. I wish you glory and the strength to bear its burdens. I wish you sunshine on your path and health to carry you on your journey. I wish you peace in the world in which you live and in the smallest corner of your heart where truth is kept. I wish you faith to help define your living and your life. More I cannot wish for you, except perhaps love, to make all the rest worthwhile. Thank you and goodbye.
Congratulations, Debbie. You really nailed it.
Thank you.
This afternoon, I have the honor of introducing Colonel Michelle Jorn Stuart, Kingswood Class of 1981. Michelle lived in Detroit and remembers riding a bus to Kingswood School each day with her Cranbrook classmate and now lifelong friend, Rob Edwards. During those rides, the two of them often talked about their futures. Rob wanted to be, and in fact has achieved, his dream of being a successful screenwriter. Michelle didn't see her future defined quite so clearly. However, what she didn't realize at the time is that the passions that she developed while a student at Kingswood had already set her on her career path. During Michelle's time here, Kingswood and Cranbrook had not yet merged as a single school, but students and faculty experienced the life of a co-ed school in academics and extracurriculars, including busing between campuses. Michelle saw herself as a math and science person and found the new and expanding computer science program interesting. She enjoyed fencing and was the captain of our team. However, it was in Lodestar and Wilderness, our school's two outward-bound programs, that this city girl learned to push her limits. In her senior year, Michelle turned down a 4-year scholarship to the University of Michigan and made the bold move to study engineering at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute on a 1-year scholarship. Michelle understood the cost considerations made completing her college career at Rensselaer an uncertainty, but it was a risk she was willing to take. One day, during her freshman year at Rensselaer, Michelle saw students rappelling down a wall, something that she had learned to do in Lodestar during high school. Intrigued, Michelle inquired about this outward-bound program and learned it was part of ROTC. Michelle wasted no time in applying and was accepted. Just like that, her remaining 3 years of college tuition were covered by an ROTC scholarship, and her career path as an Army engineer was set in motion. Colonel Stewart's military career spanned more than 30 years, and during that time, she was one of the highest-ranking women in the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Her wide-ranging assignments, both at home and abroad, required leadership, direction, mentorship, and vision, and garnered her well-deserved recognition. She taught at West Point, as well as at the U.S. Army War College, and as a Deputy Chief of Staff at the Special Forces Command, Michelle oversaw the design and development of a new training facility that allowed the doubling of Special Forces personnel. Michelle's work often required long-term deployments away from her 3 daughters and her husband Brian, who is also a colonel in the Army. Michelle was stationed in hostile environments, such as Iraq and Afghanistan, where she designed, negotiated, and supervised the building of infrastructures to meet both military and humanitarian objectives. While all of Michelle's assignments had a positive impact on soldiers and civilians alike, she looks back on some of them with particular pride. One was her role as a geospatial intelligence analyst at the Dayton Accords. Her experience in geographic targeting systems prompted a special request for her services at the peace talks. Michelle and her team established the negotiated demarcation line that separated the warring factions and facilitated the end of the Bosnian Civil War. In Afghanistan, culture norms prevented male doctors from treating women. In a joint effort to reduce the high infant mortality rate, Michelle was assigned to work with the United States Agency for International Development to create schools that would train village women to be midwives. Within a year of opening these schools, that rate was reduced by 25%, resulting in a significant cultural change. Before retiring from the Army in 2014, Michelle was assigned to Arlington National Cemetery as its chief engineer, and shortly thereafter was also given the responsibility of Arlington's chief of staff. There had been problems with the eternal flame at President Kennedy's grave. Michelle was tasked with designing a system that would keep the flame burning regardless of the weather conditions. In 2013, on the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's death, Michelle had the honor of carrying the torch that reignited that flame. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Colonel Michelle Jorn Stuart.
President DeMarco, Director Seibert, Head of the Upper School, Shaw, Dean Schutte, governors, trustees, alumni, members of the faculty and the administration, parents, friends, and most importantly, graduates of the class of 2016. Thank you for the invitation to speak to you today. 35 years ago, I was seated right where you are now. I have no recollection whatsoever of who spoke at my graduation. But I do have an excuse for my poor memory. I had just delivered the graduates' farewell. Congratulations, Gabrielle, you did much better than I did. When I delivered that farewell, I was almost comically relieved to be done with the harrowing duty of speaking in public. My heart was racing, my attention was wholly preoccupied with congratulating myself on making it back to my seat without tripping. I distinctly remember a moment, though, after sitting down, where it hit me. Now what? Life beyond Cranbrook seemed surreal, and I was not ready to go. I loved Cranbrook. I cherished my friends here, and I knew the caliber of educators that I had here was rare. But to an extent I had yet to appreciate, my Cranbrook teachers taught me how to learn. Arlie Seibert was a young and vibrant teacher who helped me make insightful connections from the world of literature and history to the so-called real world of modern politics and social issues. Rich Lamb taught a group of us nerds computer science. It was a new tool and very unusual to have that exposure back in the early 80s at the high school level. And Frank Norton taught physics in the classroom and life skills after school with Lodestar and the Wilderness Expedition. The future loomed large, unknown, challenging, and more than a little scary. I didn't know it then, but I was much better prepared for facing that future than I could have ever believed. The time I spent here with these mentors, these teachers, these friends, this incredible resource of architecture, art, and beauty had prepared me well for college and beyond. Looking back, I realized the life lessons I learned here at Cranbrook prepared me to succeed in the Army and in life. What I took away from my time in Cranbrook was a deep appreciation for and commitment to 3 critical core values: courage, perseverance, and teamwork. If you'll permit, I'd like to share a few memories with you today. You see, my stories have deep roots here on the grounds of Cranbrook. This is where I started on the path that led me from where you are sitting now at the start of your professional life journey to where I'm standing now, nearing the end of mine. I hope I can offer some thoughts on how you may expand on your incredible education. The first core value I learned here at Cranbrook is courage. You can't be a soldier without a deep appreciation for courage. And you can't have spent much time in Lodestar without testing your personal zeal for it, whether it's climbing the rock walls around campus, rappelling down the tower in the Cranbrook Quad. Yeah, we did that. Or spending weeks living out of a backpack in the snowy Smokies. Anyone who has had the privilege of spending time with Frank Norton and his crew knows something about courage. One of my most formative memories was stepping over the railing of that tower on the quad and leaning back on rappel for the first time. Every basic instinct is screaming, "Idiot, this isn't safe." Yet there they are, your friends, your buddies, they're watching you. Some of them have already done it. So you lean back a little more, and you take that first step. Move that foot. Can I do it? Maybe just a little. And then you do. You overcome your fear. You lean into your harness. You find that you can trust your gear. You can trust your belayer. You can trust yourself. The epiphany comes, I can do this. And you do, bounding down that wall like you own it. I learned in Lodestar that I could will myself to do what I needed to do to get through the challenge at hand. And so when I joined the Army, rappelling came pretty easy. Of course there's fear. Any normal person would rather take the stairs. But it is possible to will the fear to subside enough to act. I've applied that force of will a few times in some pretty disparate situations. Mapping mass graves in Bosnia, briefing Congress, dealing with the media, speaking in public, driving a convoy in Afghanistan, facing a classroom full of smart, young West Point cadets. Sure, there's fear, but you can, and you do, move beyond it. You don't have to be a soldier to appreciate courage. I had the opportunity to really put myself in Frank Norton's shoes a few years back when I was stationed in Alaska. I was an adult leader for a group of teens on a rafting trip on the Yukon River. Our small group took action to repel an attack by a grizzly bear. The entire group of teens reacted as they were trained to do. They massed together, they waved their arms, made themselves look larger than life, and the bear left. Every person in that group experienced what it's like to be in combat. Sure, there's fear, chaos, adrenaline, but training helps your brain to calm your heart, to overrule your fear, to find the calm within yourself that allows you to defeat the challenge at hand. Holding on to courage under pressure is a conscious act that can be practiced and achieved in even the most extreme situations. I learned to take tiny but courageous first steps here at Cranbrook. The second core value is perseverance. Courage is what enables us to show up at the starting line, but perseverance is what gets us to the finish. Perseverance is the ability to continue to pursue a goal even when self-doubt, the judgment of others, and even reason itself tells you that you should quit. Turns out we can usually go a lot farther than our first instincts say we can. One of my toughest lessons in perseverance was learned during my Cranbrook Wilderness Expedition in 1979. It's been a while. After the interminable bus ride, 5 soon-to-be best friends and I set off uphill, of course, uphill, following my small group leader, Frank Norton. We had this. We were young and strong, and we trained by running all over Cranbrook, even backpacking on the Bruce Trail in Canada. Nort was old, probably at least 30. So we were sure we could do anything he could do. But the trail climbed resolutely uphill. The Bruce was flat by comparison, and the 6 of us students were soon dragging. Another hour passed, and we were strung out in singles and pairs across at least a mile of terrain. We probably did less than 5 miles that first day. The second day wasn't much better because we were sore from day 1, and we had blisters. It always seemed like old man Nort was half a mile ahead and plodding on resolutely, despite the pain of the uphill climb. By the end of the first week, though, our little group could do 10 and then 15 miles a day. Our endurance improved dramatically. We learned to choose to persist despite the pain. We learned perseverance. I think perseverance is kind of an extension of courage. It's courage over time, and it's courage that can be magnified and facilitated by teamwork. No one wants to be the first team member to quit. Perseverance is a skill that soldiers respect, perhaps above all others. Perseverance gets the individual soldier through the interminable boredom of life in a foreign country, devoid of creature comforts and the company of your family. One natural leader who perseveres can inspire a team to get through a long ruck march, or ranger school, or long rainy nights in a foxhole. Perseverance, too, is a core value that can be learned and reinforced by teamwork, and it can be brought to bear on the challenges that each of us faces in life. Finally, I'd like to talk about teamwork. I've mentioned here today that I believe both courage and persistence can be enhanced by the presence of the right group of people. As a soldier, you learn quickly how to appreciate the value of teamwork. Read any biography of any Medal of Honor winner, and he'll tell you that any great individual feat on the battlefield can be attributed to just a regular guy or gal looking after their buddies. In any adventure sport, you have to trust your teammates, and you have to be worthy of their trust, or people get hurt. I deeply appreciate the value of teamwork, and I learned the foundation of that life skill here at Cranbrook. In preparation for that wilderness trip, Nort had us bring our fully loaded packs to school to demonstrate our readiness. Most of us had pretty full packs, but then Nort divided up the group gear. Things like pots and pans and tarps and food had to be loaded into those packs, along with our personal clothing and hygiene items. That wasn't easy. These things added a lot of weight and bulk to packs that were already bulging. We had discovered a key principle: pack the group gear first. Individual comfort items had to go to make everything else fit. And you weren't much of a team player if the only group gear you were carrying was the iodine tablets. It was a life lesson for me, one that resonates not just as a leader of soldiers, but also as a wife and a mom. I have lived by that principle for nearly 40 years now. Prioritize for the good of a team first. If your team is going to be excellent, each member must also put the success of the team above individual comfort and success, starting with the leader. I could undoubtedly find 100 examples of this truism from my time in the Army, but one situation in particular does stand out. My final position in the Army was serving as Chief of Staff at Arlington National Cemetery, this nation's most sacred landmark. At Arlington, we bury about 200 soldiers or family members every week, and it's a family business. Every person who works at Arlington, from the guys who mow the grass to the tomb guards who stand as sentinels, view their job as an honor as well as a profession. Most of these memorial services are scheduled months in advance, and family members travel from all over the country to attend. So you can imagine how traumatic it can be when the weather is less than stellar. Washington, D.C. came to a complete halt several times my last winter at Arlington, but the cemetery didn't cancel a single service. If the family desired the service to go on as planned, Arlington made it happen. I'm sure many of you have seen beautiful photographs taken of the horse platoon drawing the caisson down the hill in snow, or the sentinels at the tomb of the unknown soldier standing guard in the rain. The incredible team that I was privileged to lead truly knows how to prioritize. Through exceptional teamwork, we delivered the honor and the dignity that each of those deceased veterans earned through their service to this country. As you prepare to leave this beautiful place, think back on the life lessons that you will take with you when you go. Whether you are confident of your next challenge or not, I am betting that you are a lot more prepared to face what life is going to throw you than what you might think. Be courageous. Don't be reckless, but take some chances. When a door opens, gather yourself and step through. See what's on the other side and trust yourself to deal with what lies there. Persevere. Once you've set a goal, keep pushing towards it. Nothing good in life is easy. You are probably a lot more resilient than you give yourself credit for. Push your margins. Make excellence your personal standard. Perhaps most important, find the people you are willing to make your team. Put them first. Whether it's your family, your company, your nation, be willing to prioritize with a conscience. You will achieve more than you can imagine. Remember to thank your parents today. Thank you for your time, and Godspeed to each young woman graduating today. Thank you very much.
At this point in the program is the practice to recognize and welcome returning alumni. So as I call your name, I would ask that you stand and remain standing until all names are called. And I would ask the audience to hold their applause again until all names are called. Our distinguished alumna, Michelle Jurin, Stuart, class of 1981, CEC trustee, Jameson Williams Feliski, 1986. School Governor Emeritus, Donald Slotkin, class of 1954. School Governors, Marquita Harris Sylvia, 1982. Pamela Applebaum, 1983. John Giapatroni, 1984. Philip Hall, 1984. Matthew Trunsky, 1984. Lauren Kerfrund, 2001. Class of 1981, celebrating their 35th reunion. Sonia Angelini Pastori, Kristen Studebaker, Jamie Pyle Gregory. Alumni, parents of graduates. Ralph Margulis, 1968. Alan DeClerc, 1972. John Gagliardi, 1975. Stephen Schwartz, 1979. Katie Jessup, 1979. Bill Harvey, class of 1980. Syed Ahmed, 1982. Jan Mittenthal Rosen, 1983. Melinda North Saylor, 1983. Jeffrey Weiss, 1984. Gary Short, 1985. Christy Anderson Hamed, 1986. J.J. Modell, 1990. We have many alumni siblings of graduates here today. May I ask all of our alumni siblings to please stand as well. Our alumni faculty and staff, may I ask them to stand and be recognized. Daryl Taylor, class of 1970. Linda Mastone, 1977. Susan Akins Post, 1978. Jacob Hazard, 1992. Susan Strickland Muskovitz, 1997. Hannah Robinson, 2006. Our honorary alumni, Betsy Clark, Debbie Rutson, Arla Seibert. Would you please at this point join me in also recognizing any alumni whose name I didn't call and are in the audience now? Would you please stand and be recognized? Congratulations, and join me in welcoming each and every alumni back to their home, Cranbrook Schools. I would also like to take a moment and ask the audience in joining me in congratulating our retiring faculty. First of all, Frank Norton, 47 years. Deborah Rutson. Deborah Rutson, 47 years. Herb Snitz, years to the affinity. And would you also join me in thanking Charlie Shaw as he steps down as head of the upper school?
The faculty has discharged its duties to the Director of Schools. We have determined that all of these members of the class of 2016 have met the requirements for graduation. On behalf of the faculty, I recommend to you, Mrs. Seibert, the class of 2016 for the awarding of diplomas.
Ellie Jean Ackerman. Aditi Adhikari, cum laude. Sophia Fatima Ahmed. Brooke Mackenzie Allgaier. Caitlin Arvizo Alvord. Jordan Francis Andrews, cum laude. Swati Aravindan, cum laude. Shara Sheffer Aviona, cum laude. Madeline Rose Dow Baker, cum laude. Brooke Catherine Ballard. Ria Benoy. Elizabeth Lauren Bentley. Sarah Elizabeth Berman. Erica Julia Ingrid Binroth. Alexandra Elizabeth Bowers. Riley Kate Brannigan, cum laude. Grace Margaret Brill. Hannah Geschwind Wanomo, cum laude. Samantha Rong Chen, cum laude. Kyla Alexandra Kent Cherry. Abigail Ray Chin. Grayson Hunter Chiskowski. Talia Alana Cohen. Tyler Jean Collier. Rong Kong, cum laude. Laurel Francis Cook. Riley Ann Coombs. Veronica Nicole Dennis Dobrczynski. Hannah Danielle DeClerc. Leah Andrea Dolick, cum laude. Soma Wusha Du, cum laude. Hannah Bryn Eibner, cum laude. Claire Eleanor Elwell. Silan Imad Fadlala. Jordan Elizabeth Faulkner. Maria Elena Gagliardi. Jean Gao, cum laude. Francesca Drone Gazzolo. Madison Miller George, cum laude. Grace Margaret Giampatroni. Catherine Jayla Hamed. Ashley Eileen Harry. Emily Jean Harvey, cum laude. Nicole Lynn Heppard. Wendy Raquel Hernandez. Ajane Hines. Caroline Bain Hinnant. Gabrielle Marie Hitzman. Amanda Elizabeth Jessup. Alexandra Sierra Jr. Vasilia Anastasia Cavadas. Colby Phyllis Cochran Keln, cum laude. Shakira Khanam. Riley Davis Noor. Wade Barrett Kogler. Yin Yin Janice Lau, cum laude. Charlotte Megway Lee. Sharon Lee. Jillian Elizabeth Levine. Kaylee Ann Lawand, cum laude. Alyssa Nicole Lopayton. Beatrice Ludovica Lucchesi. Bailey Ashton Luce. Anna Severe Mallet. Elena Catherine Margulis. Kelsey Ann Martin. Lauren Renee Mesner. Zuleika Sophia Mirza. Ruby Grace Modell. Allison Cara Motia. Clara Reem Moncara, cum laude. Margaret Stanton Payne. Sydney Elizabeth Pollock. Irene Lynn Chi, cum laude. Anna Christine Rapson. Gabrielle Rohr. Allison Jill Rosen. Simone Catherine Rosso. Anjali Roy Chowdhury, cum laude. Pippa Ann Russell, cum laude. Sarah Lauren Selkowski. Anushka Elisa Sandel. Maria Alexandra Santana Garces. Elizabeth Annette Saylor, cum laude. Catherine Elaine Schwartz. Arden Alyssa Garbone Shapiro. Anna Bryn Short. Anamika Rose Shrestha. Maeve Catherine Stargart. Abigail Pauline Stumpf. Amanda Jane Tu. Christina Parisa Vafayan. Victoria Nicole Vespa, cum laude. Apollonia Dmitrievna Vlasova. Soyeon Kelly Wang. Molly Ellenbell Weiner. Molly Elizabeth Wyatt. Amber Latrice Young. Irene Yu, cum laude. Maya Zarik. Please join me in congratulating the girls' class of 2016.
We rise for the singing of America.
Present to you the Kingswood flag. I charge you and the senior class of 2017 to carry on the duties, responsibilities, and traditions which this flag symbolizes.
I accept this flag and will endeavor to carry out the duties, responsibilities, and traditions which this flag symbolizes.
We invite the members of the board, faculty, and alumni to join the graduates in the singing of the school song.
Oh
Let's pray. God of heaven and earth, we send these young people out from Cranbrook Kingswood and ask for your blessing. As they aim high and go forth to serve, help them not to neglect those who are often named as lowly, the poor, the marginalized, and those who are suffering. Give us all discerning eyes and ears to help others, especially those who we might normally neglect and fail to notice. Give each student safety, direction, and courage. Help them to use everything they've learned and become over their years here to the very best of their abilities. Bless parents and families as well. Give them peace in this time of transition and graciously provide students and parents with divine wisdom to navigate the future that awaits. Finally, we also ask for a restful and rejuvenating summer for all students, parents, staff, and faculty. Empower us all to be a blessing to others in everything that we do. Amen.
We now invite the guests to please stand.